We're back. We're live. Happy Friday. I got a little bit of a different one here because I've come in and talked about a couple of things the past 2 weeks. I think it's 2 weeks of things that I've been building and with AI in Squarespace. And I've built even more cool things with AI in Squarespace since. And I've learned a couple of lessons, and I thought that this would be a great opportunity to pass those on because it's kind of coming at all of us, right? So here's what I've got, and I'm going to pull up. I'm going to share a folder with you here in just a second. But what I learned really quickly out of the gate is that if I can't stack context, you wind up with just a massive agents.md or CLAUDE.md, depending upon which system you're using, that kind of holds everything. And the challenge is that it doesn't scale very well. It doesn't update and edit very well. And it just became a mess very quickly. And by going with small localized files that load only when they're relevant, three things happened very quickly. One, I used far fewer tokens, which is amazing. Not that I know what an actual token's value is. That's abstract, but certainly the bar that fills up saying used all your tokens was starting to fill up pretty quickly. Organization, by trying to prevent confusion, goes a long way to not having a confused AI assistant that builds something that is just wrong or out of context or starts crossing the streams. And three would be ownership. Who's responsible for keeping things true, for keeping things accurate? And look, sometimes I'm responsible for that, and sometimes the agent is responsible for that. And that's where accuracy and efficiency come from. So let me share a window with you in here now. I always have to hunt for the share button, but this is a file window. Okay, I'm going to share this with you now. So what you're seeing here is basically this vibe coding folder right here that shows the overall structure. And since everything I code is a customization or augmentation of Squarespace itself, I came right out of the gate with a series of skills and rules for exactly what that means. And that includes reference material, an actual skill file, and then information on things like breakpoints and the container model and a glossary and like a prompt and feedback system for leveraging things like their custom system specific IDs and things of that nature and how it stacks boxes. And then a series of templates for how I want things to work inside of there. And the way this works and here's my CLAUDE.md file, which is the massive agents one. And then I wanted it to create, and inside of that CLAUDE.md file, it's saying, hey, create a folder with this structure for each client. And we'll manage the changelog, we'll have project information, we'll have a code repository, and we will have screen captures that help us kind of progress through it all. And each client gets a folder. And then a folder for task automations where if we're doing something routinely like, hey, update the team in Trello of this, or update me in Trello with this, or hey, this is sort of a large database of clients and all of their information so that I don't have to add that context every single time. And the reason why this helps at a high level is that having the CLAUDE.md, the one that I tried that got really big, when it gets long, it holds a lot of quirks. And if it's a forever grower, then it gets confused and there can be conflicting rules in there. So by separating project and process, company process, and all of that, so they're all running differently, we wind up with a system where smaller blocks of context are more helpful and get access when necessary, and they don't get access when it is unnecessary. And let me stop sharing because I think you get what a folder looks like. So that prevents the master sort of the main or primary context document holding file, the MD file, right? The markdown for CLAUDE.md, yours might be called AGENTS.md. And then the project.md files being separate, like I said, become hyper specific to both the project and the initiative from an organization standpoint. And that saves a ton of tokens. When you get a bloated file, you'll absolutely hammer your token system. So the second one that I mentioned was organization. You know, it's kind of like a Kanban board where you've got these folders set up. So you've got the project.md file, and you've got, say, Zapier tables over here and Google Sheets over there, and maybe local database or spreadsheet or CSV in another place. And you're trying to corral all of those. That may be different for every single client because they work in different systems. Some might be in OneDrive or Dropbox, or so that's where the project specific rules really come in handy, so that you're not running through all of those systems that you're not using and a check for every single one of them every time you're trying to do something for one client that isn't on Dropbox. There's no need to ping it. There's no need for that agent to go there. So that helps a lot when it comes to the organization, and the organization matters if we're going to prevent confusion. And the third one I mentioned is ownership. The changelog.md file is important because it helps us contain ownership of who's in charge of what, whether it's me or the agent, right? So nobody has to ask, hey, why is this client or is that client? Is this file location accurate or is this file location accurate? Because those are handled at the project level. And then when it comes to the change log, like that layer, then we get into a system where the skills inside of each one can be specific for each client. And now we're not running a bunch of skills for clients that we're not supporting or servicing in that moment, like not their project or initiative. So with those prompts in, I guess you would say they'd be bracketed. It allows us to turn those into skills, and those skills can be repurposed in the future. Like, say, if you want to change systems, if you want to use different systems for different tasks, or have different systems doing different levels of the project, or maybe even talking to one another, like I showed last week when I had Claude prompting and instructing Square Kickers Compose, and then making changes in Superbase and making changes to a Google Doc and logging in to an API instruction document. Like, all of that stuff can happen in one window if the rules, if the skills are all set up so that they are structured in those layers. So if you're vibe coding with an agent, and you're, and it's not just Squarespace, right? It's that same 3-part test applies no matter where you're working. And it's about saving tokens, or maybe squeezing more work out of the token level that you have, and maintaining organizations so that we're as efficient as possible and it's as easy as possible to prevent confusion or crossing the streams, you might say. And then the last one would be, like I mentioned, the was it spacing out here? Oh, localization. Critical. We want to own all of this, right? So if some app shuts down one day, or suddenly makes some change that we're uncomfortable with, or steps in some, political pile of poo, and we have to reconsider the resources that are at our disposal every day, then we own the context and the files are local, and we can take that. It's more portable and more flexible for us well into the future, even if we wanted to archive it. So instead of just putting it all up in the cloud, now it can be local and convertible, which is nice. So it creates a natural pivot. And this is exactly the kind of operational discipline that I walk people through inside of my program, my cohort program. So if you're curious about that, there's a link in the description. You can go to resonantpixel.co/wow. And I help people with their Squarespace website every day. and I'm ready to help you too. So if this video was helpful at all, like, subscribe, hit me in the comments. If it was super confusing and you don't quite get it, you need me to back up a step, I can do that. We can do that too. Just leave a comment down below and I'll be sure to make that video for you. So I hope you have a great rest of your day and I hope you have a great weekend. And I will see you next Friday, 11 a.m. right here. Same bat time, same bat channel. That's not copyright infringement, is it? It might be copyright infringement. We'll see. Have a good one.